Welcome to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. This next artist is a Sydney based singer songwriter whose love for music is inherited from his father. Wearing hats both as a solo act and a band member, he's chasing after his passion every way he can. Welcome, Ben.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I always like to start with where your music story kind of all began.
Yeah. Well, I guess it kind of comes from my dad. My dad used to be in a band when he was a lot younger. Um, so I guess he kind of pushed me into doing it at school. My school had a program when I was in year three, which is like 7 years old, that you can start learning instruments. So I kind of got pushed into that. It was also a cool thing to do, if you did it, you're pretty cool. So I guess that also helped. I wasn't really reluctant, like I was pretty excited to do it. So I started playing piano when I was about six, probably. You could do that a year earlier than any other instrument. So I got into that first. And then you had the option of playing a bunch of instruments. I wanted to go into electric guitar, but I couldn't go into that on the first year. You had to do a year of bass guitar first. So I started playing bass when I was seven. Um, and then I was planning the next year to go into electric guitar, but I didn't. I stayed with bass because I loved it so much and my teacher was really cool. So I've been playing bass for however many years now, a long time since seven. I'm 23 now, so a long time. Same with piano. I've done more exams on bass, so I've done all the exams you can. I've done 8 grades, all the exams you can for bass. So bass is my main instrument, my original instrument, sort of. And then I kind of, well, it was more of like a hobby all through school. And then I started getting to 16, 17, and I started writing my own songs for school projects, and I did quite well in them, and I started enjoying it. So I started writing songs at home, and that's kind of when I, started figuring out I wanted to be an artist. I didn't sing until I was probably 17 or 18. So I haven't been singing for very long in comparison to other things. And then I decided to go to uni for music. And that's, yeah, where I kind of decided to take it to a professional level afterwards because I kind of had the tools and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I guess. Quite a long story, but yeah.
Long story for a long journey. So when you started writing songs, was that like just lyrics? Was that like just instrumental? Was it like bass and lyrics or a different instrument and lyrics? Or how did that like what does that kind of look like? I'm always
Um,
curious, especially from
yeah,
like
yeah,
the bass perspective. Like the bass
yeah,
is just it's got that different hold and
yeah,
how
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. Well, the first thing I ever did was like music, film composition stuff. So no lyrics, no vocals or anything like that. So purely instrumental stuff. And I mean, it was, yeah, I was using pretty much any instrument. I was using brass and strings and stuff, and whatever I thought was a good idea, I guess at the time. We were using Logic and stuff like that. So just
Love
kind of
Logic.
mostly, yeah, MIDI instruments. So it probably didn't sound great, but that's kind of the stuff I did at school. And I started composing, and the writing came quite naturally to me, compared to other people. Like a lot of people kind of struggled on those projects at school. So that's where I kind of like realized I was good at it, at least, even if I didn't enjoy it, I was good at it. I was enjoying it as well, but that's kind of where I realized, oh, maybe that's something I could do because I mean, honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do for a very long time. Like even when I chose to do music at uni, I wasn't still sure what path I wanted to do. I hadn't been singing very long, and I was honestly, I'm very harsh on myself, as I'm sure most people are, but I'm very harsh on myself, so I didn't think my voice was good enough to take a career on my own.
Hmm.
I thought I was going to have to write songs for other people. Um, but yeah, going back to what I was writing, yeah, it was mostly instrumental at the start, and then I don't know. I went through a breakup that kind of is
Oh,
what
there you
started
go.
my, yeah, that's what
Yep.
kicked off my my actual like artists songs, I guess. I started playing piano and singing. Um, I always start with either playing on guitar or piano and singing, ironically. Bass comes in later usually, which is weird, but it's how it is, I guess.
It makes sense. I mean, bass is like it's you can do a lot with it, but it's not like you can't form chords really in that
Yeah,
way and like
yeah,
do the substantial stuff that you can do with guitar and piano.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, no, but I get it. I mean, I didn't sing on my own stuff for a few years, so I'm right
Yeah,
there with you. Um,
yeah, yeah,
but that's cool. I didn't even consider it being like composite from a composition standpoint where things started, but
yeah, yeah,
that gives you an interesting starting point, and also
for
like
sure.
you're already working in Logic before you're even writing actual songs. So you're like
Yeah,
by the time you're ready to
yeah,
record them, you're miles ahead of everybody else.
yeah, for sure. It definitely, yeah, I mean, it definitely helped out in a lot of ways. It made me very self-sufficient. So it was
Yeah.
definitely good to do.
Yeah. What do you find most often inspires a lot of your writing?
It's it's always about me or people I'm close to. Um, it's always sad. I'm very bad at writing happy songs. I figured out. So, I can't write anything necessarily happy, but I'm trying to write a song at the moment that's kind of it, it's not sad, but it's not happy either. It's hard not to be kind of cliche when I write happy songs, so I don't do that. I'm good at writing sad stuff, and it's not always like completely sad. It kind of has a, character development, if you like.
Okay.
So there's always like a silver lining in the songs, but people
Yeah.
usually miss that because most of it sounds really depressing. But that's what it is. Yeah, I mean, it's always just personal experiences. Like I've written a bunch of breakup songs, which I'm sure, which everyone does. But just like stuff being a young person, all those kind of struggles, and being a musician, all those kind of struggles. And then, I mean, I'm pretty happy, honestly, in myself now. Um, the EP I'm releasing at the moment is from a couple of years ago that I was writing it a couple of years ago. So it's all about me being sad and finding my way and that kind of thing. So all the stuff that people know me for is kind of sad, so they probably think I'm sad, but I'm not. Like I've developed as a person. I'm a lot more mature now, I guess. But so a lot of the stuff I'm writing now is, about other people. I like doing like writing stuff from other people's perspective without kind of knowing it, like assuming what they're feeling and stuff like that. I quite enjoy that because I can see what I think they feel, but that might be like the complete opposite of what they feel. But I really enjoy doing that because it's kind of like over dramatic almost. But yeah, it's always kind of about what people are struggling with and what I'm struggling with and all those fun things.
Yeah. Um, do you so do you package? I mean, I get the sad thing. It's just it's easier because there's more to pull from. You want to like it's more of a like
Yeah.
pressing like okay, like I'm gonna write this song to deal with this and then it's done. Like when you're
Yeah.
happy, I always say it's like when you're happy and enjoying the moment, you don't want to stop and write a song about it. But when you're
Yeah.
sad, you want to deal with that through writing a song about it, and then it's
Yeah.
out there, and then it's done, and then
Yeah.
that's that.
Yeah, for
Do
sure.
you package the sad songs in a sad way, or are you playing those mind games of like, like when you hear a song that's a little bit more upbeat and it's got like a nice instrumental to it, but then it's
Yeah.
actually like secretly depressing, but the instrumentation would convince you otherwise? Are we at least packaging them sad, or are we kind of Trojan horsing them into upbeat sort of vibes?
Um, oh, that's a good question. Um, I'm not sure, honestly. I mean, one of my songs is called Never Gonna Make It, and that's quite obvious that it's not happy. And the chorus is literally, I'm never gonna make it. So it's hard not to package it as a sad song, I guess. It's not necessarily written in a sad way, though, if that kind of makes sense. Like the
Yeah.
chords aren't always all minor and it's not always slow. Um, a lot of the songs I'm writing now, like my EP is kind of ballady. And the songs I'm writing now, I'm transitioning more into kind of like indie rock stuff. So it's kind of like they're usually like quicker, more upbeat kind of things, but they're still very sad lyrically. So not necessarily packaged to be sad, kind of, yeah, kind of trying to disguise the fact that they're sad and seeing if anyone's actually paying attention to the lyrics, I guess.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, I guess they're not supposed to be sad sounding, but if you actually listen to the lyrics, it is quite depressing. But yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Well, that's fair. I find it always hard when, like, if you add like drums to something, it's hard to keep it where it feels like on a like negative emotion scale. Like, where
Yeah,
it's like, I
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
if you add drums, it just automatically sounds like fun. Like, this is a
yeah,
good time. Like, we're here to
yeah,
enjoy it. But
yeah,
secretly,
yeah,
we're talking about something that maybe we didn't enjoy. I don't
yeah,
know. But
yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. No, for sure. I don't want it to be sad because you don't want you don't want the audience to,
Yeah.
you want them to have a bad day because you've played a really sad set in front of them or something like that, and
Yeah.
it kills the mood a little bit if you
Yeah.
play every song that's sad. And it's always good to have a sad, slow song in there for sure, but I try not to yeah, make everyone else sad, so disguising it's always always a good thing
Yeah. Variety is key. Not all
for
like slow
sure.
and sad, but we can disguise them a little bit, and make them sound at least a little bit happier or more like
Yeah,
you said, they're
yeah,
not
yeah,
happy, they're not sad. They're just like
yeah,
there, and they're just like
yeah.
commentary or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I always like to, I never leave it always like all the way sad through. So I always like to
Yeah.
have some sort of silver lining in there. So
Yeah.
it's not all doom and gloom.
Silver lining is what it's all about.
Yeah, for sure.
If you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would you call
Uh,
it?
oh gosh, I don't even know what genre I describe my music as now, to be honest.
Well, so then think about it in the way of like if you were to just create a category that only your catalog is the entirety of like that genre. How are we describing it? Like how are we describing the vibes essentially? How are we describing it? Doesn't have like we don't need any genre words if we don't want to, but it's like if I were to ask you what kind of music you made and you wanted to tell me in a way that's like just your thing, what are those words? I don't know if that made it harder or not, but
Yeah. Uh, uh, oh gosh. Happy, sad, indie pop rock.
okay. Happy
Just
sad. I usually ask
everything.
like where did the name come from, but we've kind of just dissected the whole happy
Just
sad
everything.
narrative idea.
It's it's blunt, just like my music. There you go.
Happy
Just
and
it's
sad silver
descriptive.
linings. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never good with the genre thing. Like every submission I do, I'd ask genre, and I'm like,
Yeah.
uh, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
like I write so many like any song that comes to me can be a completely different genre. It's very different. Like everything I've released so far has been kind of ballady, so I kind of have to go with pop stuff. Like it's very heavily pop at the moment, but yeah, anything I'm writing is everything I'm writing now is quite different, and I'm sure everything in a year will be very different to what I'm writing now. So
True.
it's always a tricky question for me to answer that one.
Yep. And as soon as you find the box that you want to put yourself in, suddenly that box isn't the right box anymore.
Yeah,
Like
it'll
suddenly we're
change.
on to
Yep,
the next thing. We need just
yep,
like
yep.
this chart of like 37% like indie rock and like
Yeah,
52% like folk and then like
yeah,
12% pop, like the like DNA
yeah,
charts and stuff like that. Like
yeah,
that's what we
yeah.
need to be able to like submit to things. So then it's like if you
For
want to
sure.
like here's my majority, but like we also have some other flavors in here if you're interested.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean that would make it easier for sure. Also, if someone just told me what I am, that would be good as well. I never know if I'm saying it right or not.
feedback always welcome. Yeah. It's always hard because it's like especially when people like ask you who you sound like. It's like
Oh
I could
gosh,
name
no.
10 I
I'm
could name 10
terrible.
artists that I think I have a flavor
Yeah,
of. And it like one
sure.
song to the next it's gonna sound different.
And then someone could say, "Wait, you don't sound anything like that person.
Yeah, but to somebody
Sound
else
more
you could
like this
sound
other
spot on.
person."
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's crazy.
I don't know. It's tricky stuff.
Why are we asked to do these kinds of things?
I don't know,
Who
honestly.
made these rules? Is there a song that you've written that you think best embodies who you are as an artist? What I like to call the one song sample platter of like, if you like this song, you'll like the rest. If you like this song, you'll like what's yet to come. Like if you should be a fan, like what's kind of your like gateway to the rest of the catalog?
Uh, hmm.
Just after we
Again,
got done saying that they're all
that's
so different
tricky.
from one another,
Yeah.
right?
Uh, oh, yeah, that's tricky because if I pick one from my EP, it's going to be nothing like what I'm about to like the new stuff I'm going to release, and then if I pick the new stuff, it's going to be nothing like my older stuff.
You could
Yeah, I
also
don't know.
think about it from like I like to think about it from like a thesis statement point of view where it's like it doesn't necessarily have to be because I feel like as a consumer space as music consumers I feel like we've gotten more and more about the lyrics than we ever have been. Like if you look at like
Yeah,
classic rock from the 70s and 80s, like a lot of the stuff that they're saying in some of those songs makes no sense. There's
yeah,
probably a story there if you really were to dissect it, but some of the things that they say just don't make
yeah,
sense. And
yeah,
now it's like we're in the age of like Noah Khan is taken off and people
yeah.
are dissecting his stuff. Taylor Swift, every
Taylor
song of hers is
Swift.
being stripped down lyric for lyric.
Yep,
Like who's
yep,
it
yep,
about? What is she saying? All these different things.
yep,
And so like it also could be from the point of view of like if you could just say if you had one song to be like this is what I want to say, if you hear anything that I say like across these different songs, this is the one
yep.
thing that I think you should hear. You could look at it that way as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be from a sonic perspective. It could be
Yeah.
lyrically as well. Again, I
Okay.
could be complicating the question further and making it a harder decision for you, but hopefully that's helping.
Uh, yeah, I mean, lyrically, honestly, lyrically, well, they're all about kind of the same thing. I would, I would say one of my songs is called "I Don't Know," and it's unreleased. Um, it'll be the next one that's released after my EP, which should be out soon, hopefully, if I get it done. Which I've been saying for ages, but uh. that I guess would be the gateway to everything else. I guess it's It's probably one of my favorites lyrically. I mean, I honestly I always struggle with lyrics. I'm never good. Words are probably again, I'm probably harsh on myself, but words are probably not my strongest in my songwriting. I prefer to focus on melody and harmonies and all that kind of thing. I'm better with the instrumentation, I would say, but it's probably my favorite lyrically. It's about someone I know, not me, but it's kind of about young people problems, as I was saying before. Like it's about kind of not giving up, letting someone support you in your problems. It's about comments on like social media and body image and that kind of thing, and always, having to impress other people, all that kind of thing, having to go on social media and boast about how good your life is because everyone's competing with each other and all that kind of fun stuff. So again, a very, very happy song. But yeah, it's probably my favorite lyrically, and it's sort of like you'd get an idea what I kind of write about in most of my songs, at least, from that one, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I that's definitely like an important kind of topic of conversation, and then it's one of those things that it's like when you're living it as an individual experience, and there's all this uncertainty, and especially when you get to that point in life when you like previously thought that, oh, this is going to happen and we're going to go XYZ and all these other things, and it's just going to work out perfectly
Yeah,
as planned, as we
yeah,
always dream when we're
yeah,
naive and young and can think that
yeah,
way. But it's kind of reaching that point of like, oh, there's uncertainty, but it's like when you look at it just from your own perspective, it's one of those things that can be very isolating and can be
yeah,
very just like tunnel vision of like, this is my sole experience. And you feel like it's uncertain and you don't have anything figured out because you feel like other people have it figured out. Well,
yeah,
if it's your
yeah.
experience, it's probably someone else's. It's
Everyone
probably
else's.
most other people's, because the human
Yeah,
experience is kind of a universal thing.
yeah,
So
yeah, for
it's
sure.
definitely important to have those kinds of things. And I think even from like if you're just taking the music part out of it, which is kind of the complete opposite of what we're doing here and what, the whole point of making music is in the first place. But if you're
Yeah,
taking it down to just the topic in itself, like if that's your thesis statement, that's all you need. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that's,
yeah,
you're saying
for
something
sure.
meaningful and something that people need to
Yeah,
hear.
yeah.
So yeah,
I I
make that your
mean,
thesis
yeah,
track. Make that your thesis
yeah.
track.
Yeah, I mean, I'm passionate about that kind of stuff. I mean, social media is obviously now a really, really big part of being an artist, but I am very much introverted, and social media is not natural to me in any way, shape, or form. So it's hard to see other people, doing well and being so extroverted and kind of like, natural with it, and it just comes to them easy, and they can just post videos like it's nothing and get tons of views and all that kind of thing, and it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of demoralizing a lot of the time. But yeah, it's definitely something I'm really passionate about, and it's kind of like I see people around me kind of sacrificing things in their life for social media and, looking good for other people, and I kind of think, you know, is it worth it?
Mm.
So it's something that's obviously, I mean, I have to be on socials every day, so it's kind of very relevant to me as well. So it's easy to write about. I guess that's why I wrote
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Write what you know. The best
Yeah,
stuff that you write is
exactly.
probably going to be the stuff that you know about or have lived firsthand.
Yep, for sure. For sure.
Not to be a hypocrite with this, but if you had to pick two or three artists that you think your music is like a combination of, it's kind of a spin on the classic "Who do you sound like?"
Yep,
Two or three artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who would it be? And this could be elements from a like, I do guitars a lot like XYZ, like it could be
yep,
whatever you kind of make it. But who do you think, if you were to put into a nice little mix,
yep.
your music comes out on the other end?
Uh Well, I'll go with Ed Sheeran first because he's the main pop guy, I guess. And my music is very poppy, and I've looked up to him for my entire life, I guess. And that's kind of where, yeah, he's probably kind of one of my main inspirations in terms of writing music. I mean, if you listen to my first EP, it'll sound it's acoustic y stuff, so it's sort of similar to kind of stuff he does. So I guess in the sense of the whole picture of ballady stuff, he's kind of the main man I kind of looked up to in that respect. So that's an easy one. Now I have to think of more. Um, I don't know. I've listened to The Killers. They were the first band I ever listened to. I've been listening to them since I was like 4 years old. I've always loved them. I don't know if you can take much out of my music that would be similar to them, but I love them. So I guess it must be in there somewhere. I mean, a lot of the stuff I'm writing now has kind of similar stuff. I mean, they use synths and stuff, which is really cool, and I try and imitate that slightly in the newer stuff. Even in some of the EP stuff, there's some cool synth parts and stuff like that in there. Can't sing quite as high, but yeah, my voice is not similar. But yeah, guitar lines and stuff like that, I kind of definitely pull like lead guitar lines and lead synth lines. I definitely pull from them. Who else? I got told I sound like Vance Joy. Don't know if that's true, but apparently my voice sounds like him, or a bit like Sam Fender. But again, they can both sing really high, and I'm not sure that's. But I guess we'll go with them.
Okay.
There's my answer.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's usually you get the first, you get the second, and then it's like, oh, I have to fill a third slot, and then it's like there's like five people competing for that last slot. So
Yeah,
it's always
I
hard
mean, yeah,
because yeah, I mean, there's people that influence you in different ways. I mean, acoustic ballads, chill, strip back, whatever you want to call it. Ed Sheeran's written all over it, you know,
yep,
and Vance
yep, for
Joy is
sure.
very similar, just maybe
Yep,
a hint more folky than
yep,
like where Ed Sheeran's like
definitely.
Vance Joy is like if you gave Ed Sheeran a little bit more folk vibe to it,
Yep,
or like
yep,
made him use
yep,
like a ukulele, you know, or
yep,
something like that, you know.
yep, yep,
Um,
for
and
sure.
yeah, it and the Killers. I mean, I like that from the standpoint of like it's always cool to see or hear the answers that are ones that don't necessarily not meet the eye but meet the ear.
Yep,
Where it's like Ed Sheeran to the Killers, like there's a lot of difference there. But I mean, you like you said, they must be in there because that's who you've
yeah,
listened to for however many years. Like
yep,
that's
yep,
the people that we grow up on. They make their way in
yep,
there some way. They might just be
yep,
like a little hint here and there, or like one specific attribute of what you do, but they make
yep,
their way in there whether you see it or not. So
yep. I mean, yeah, my music background, like listening to music, is very diverse. I mean, my dad was into punk music, like he was around when punk was a massive thing. So I grew up listening to like Sex Pistols and all that kind of stuff, The Clash and stuff like that. So that's obviously very different to Ed Sheeran and that kind of thing. I mean, I heard pop on the radio and that's how I got addicted to that. And then my mum's into 80s stuff. My dad's into punk and Green Day and The Killers is how I got there. And people like the Kaiser Chiefs and stuff like that. And Arctic Monkeys, they're also a big one. Um, and then there's all like the surf rock kind of reggae stuff that was kind of, well, is still kind of big, but was really big when I was growing up. Locally, local music is like a lot of it is kind of like indie surf rock stuff. I mean, that's like what probably the most popular genre of music around my area, at least. People like Lime Cordial. Do you know Lime Cordial?
maybe
They're sort of getting big now that they're literally from down the road from me. they're massive in Australia and they're getting big. They've toured America a couple of times. They're touring England at the moment, I believe. So they're getting quite big. But yeah, they're kind of like inspirations from reggae and they're really surf rocky stuff like that. So I listen to a lot of different music and I'm sure it's in there somewhere, but I don't know if you'd be able to tell that from just listening to my music, but yeah, it's fun. I love all kinds of music, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, and the more you expose yourself to, the more that you can kind of learn from. You do then, I guess, in a way, run the risk of making yourself fall further and further out of any sort of sense of genre.
Yep.
But at the same
Yep.
time, it's like then you're kind of building your own path because you're kind of in your own little corner of where however many genres meet.
Yep.
And then you're
Yep.
just kind of your own thing. And it's one of those you like it or you don't.
Yep, for sure.
That's all there is to it.
They always say it's good to be unique, so if you create your own genre, then you're definitely unique. Guess it depends
Yeah.
if people like the genre, but
I'm of the mind that there is an audience for all kinds of music. You just have to find it. Some might be
find
harder
it.
to find, but
Yep.
I feel like the ones that are
Yep.
harder to find are then more like cult like fan bases.
Yep.
Whereas
Yep.
like, pop is like there's an appeal, there's a mass appeal. That's why it's pop.
Yep.
And then you're gonna have a lot more casual listeners than you would like those that are like super deep into it and all that kind of
Mm.
thing.
Yep. Sure.
What is an outside passion of yours that you feel impacts who you are as an artist?
Uh oh, I love sport. Sport is probably what I would do if I wasn't doing music. So, um, I will watch any sport anytime. I will play any sport anytime. It is my whole life other than music, which isn't a lot, to be honest. I do music a lot, but I love football or soccer as you will call it. Uh, um, yes, I play soccer all the time. That's what I play the most. But I love tennis. I love rugby. I love NFL. I love ice hockey. I love anything F1 and soccer are probably my most passionate sports. But I watch anything and everything, and I will try anything and everything. Um, I'm not really sure how that impacts me as a musician, but I uh I love it. I also love gaming. But again, I don't know how that impacts me, to be honest. But
It's your break away from the music, and so it like
sure.
gives you that energy back. It just
Yep.
it
Yeah,
indirectly feeds you
there you
back into
go.
the music. There you go.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, they always say exercise is good for the voice, I think.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's what
no,
they say.
yeah. I've played soccer all my life, so I'm right there with
Oh,
you.
really?
Yeah,
That's cool. What position?
goalie.
Oh, damn, that's a unique one. No one wants to play goalkeeper here.
Some may say it's a genre of its own.
True, true. I like playing goalkeeper, honestly, but uh I play outfit. I usually play in the midfield because
Mm.
goalie can be really boring sometimes,
Yeah. It's almost,
especially
yeah, it's almost one of those positions you prefer to be on a bad team for because then you get to do
yeah,
more.
you get to do more.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
oh.
But yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, sport, I guess. I love sport.
Do you have a favorite F1 team or a favorite driver?
I love McLaren and I
Okay.
love I
I'm of
love
a
Landon
McLaren
Norris.
household. So,
Oh, really?
yeah, my fiance is a big
Ah.
McLaren fan.
Sick. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with Lewis Hamilton being at McLaren,
Yep.
so that's how I got into the whole McLaren, fandom stuff.
Yeah.
And then he left, and I was really sad, and he went to Mercedes, sadly. But I've always kept with McLaren, even though they were really bad quite a few years ago. But Yeah, I love Lando. Lando's probably my favorite driver, but Oscar is also very, very good, and he's Australian, so I have to
That,
support him as well,
yeah, it's built right in there.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the point of the podcast where I take a question from last week's artist for this week's artist. And so the question from last week's artist for you is, if you had to have a musician cover your song, who would it be and what song?
Okay. Uh, Probably Ed Sheeran, I guess. That's that's easy, I guess. I'd let Ed Sheeran cover my song "Won't Go Back," which is probably my most popular song off my EP. It's very acoustic, and I'm sure he could do some sick looping stuff with it and make it sound really cool.
I was
And
just gonna
probably a lot
say,
more
yeah,
people would listen to it.
yeah, let him bring out the loop pedal and see what
Yep.
happens, right?
Yep. There you go. That's a
Yeah,
good question, that.
yeah,
That's a
that
good question.
that was probably my favorite one that I've been given so far.
That's a really
Um,
good question.
it's a neat spin because it's always like you cover, when you're playing stuff, you cover other people's
Yep.
music, you cover what's
Yep.
popular, you cover stuff from who you like, and now
Yep.
it's like, hey, you get the opportunity to give someone else your song to make their version of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. It's a very good question.
What is your question then for next week's artist?
Oh God. Uh oh gosh.
The fun part.
I don't, this is the stuff I'm not good at. Um, if you had to learn a new instrument, what would it be and why? I guess.
Yeah. Because I mean that I mean
Pretty easy one.
it's yeah. I mean could get a really really cool answer out of that. Hopefully it's not like it's hopefully it's somebody who's already got like guitar and piano
Skills,
under their
yeah.
belt,
That's what I mean.
and so then
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, that would be,
you get
yeah,
like glockenspiel or
that's
like
true. It could be,
saxophone or something like that. You get something goofy.
I could have just given you a really boring answer. They might just say guitar. Yeah, that, but,
I'll dig deeper. I'll dig deeper.
yeah, yeah. Oh dear. Oh
Uh,
well.
what is it that you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
You're asking some really tough questions. Uh, this is again something I've always struggled with because, it's what everyone says, it's kind of one of the first things that people tell you is that you have to figure out your brand and your identity so that you are, consistent to everyone, but also, so that you can bring yourself out from the crowd and stand out to people, and that's why they'll follow you. I have struggled with that because how do you answer that? That's a very hard question to answer, but what makes me stand out? I guess, I mean, I think I make music in a very popular genre, but I wouldn't say it's like anyone else's, I guess. But again, that could just be biased. But I think it is different. I mean, a lot of my stuff is very melody focused, um, which could be similar to other people, but I guess I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard question to answer. Uh, I think I still have to work on it. I think it's still something that, people are figuring out even 10 years into their career. And I've only been doing this professionally for a year and a bit now. So still figuring it out. But, um, you know, I, I love the environment. I live in the bush. So I love that. I love performing. I guess that's probably not stand out to anyone else, but I will get on a stage anytime, anywhere. I will play anytime, anywhere. I love playing. I love writing. So I guess I work I work hard because it doesn't feel like work. Um, and I think my songs are different, but that could just be me.
Yeah, I mean, I ask it because I mean, I come from a branding perspective on things, and so it's like
Yeah,
that's part of what we're getting at here, but also like I get from the standpoint of especially being in it for just over a year, you definitely like there's no expectation that you know exactly what you're
yeah,
doing and how you're doing
yeah,
it and what brand even means to you.
yeah,
In general, I always think that it's one of those things that is refined over time. It's
yeah,
like, it's like it's like your parents putting you in sports as a kid. It's like they put
yeah,
you in, basketball and baseball and soccer and football and whatever else. And then, after a couple of years of doing everything and doing sports through
yeah,
every season, you're like, okay, like I really like baseball, and you stick with that.
yeah,
It's like one of those things where
yeah,
it's like you try all those different things and dip your toes in all these different pools, but then you start to learn not only what you do like and what you feel strongly about and what is calling to you, but also what you don't like. And so then
yeah,
as you're kind of filtering out more and more of these things that you're like, oh, maybe I thought that was me, and it's not, you get down
yeah,
further and further to what your sound is and who you are as an artist, and you learn more about yourself just like we do as people as time goes on,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
kind of figure all of it out. No one,
yeah,
there's no, and I appreciate the self-awareness and the like honesty of like, I don't really know what it is about me that is
yeah,
so much different than anybody else. Because if you think that you're so different and you're in your own lane in this one thing, and then, there's 10,000 other people that are in that same world that you're in,
yeah,
and you just aren't
yeah,
aware of it, good
yeah,
luck,
yeah,
And so
yeah,
the self-aware the
yeah,
self-awareness is
yeah,
a
yeah,
big part of the equation. So
yeah,
you I mean you can only go forward. You can only learn
yeah,
more
for
and
sure.
experience more and release more
Yeah,
music and figure out more and more about who you are as an
for
artist
sure.
as time goes on.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't need to have
I
that answer
mean,
at this time.
yeah, that's always it's. I think I mean, I'm sure everyone struggles with it, so it's always a tough question to answer, and it's always something that everyone wants to know. Like all the labels and all that kind of thing are asking, well, why you, why are you different to the next guy? And maybe you aren't, and I guess then they don't want you, and that's okay. But I mean, everyone's different. You can't be exactly the same as the next person. So that's not true. It's just, I think the hardest part is finding actually what it is. And you are right, that definitely takes time. I definitely know who I am as an artist more than I did when I started, but I I'm definitely not at the place where I could give you a definitive answer of why I'm different and who I am. And I mean, I'm still decently young. So again, that's all
Yeah.
about, learning yourself, and that's the fun part, I guess,
No,
you
yeah,
don't want to
that's
you don't want to know straight away. So
yeah. No, it's
part of the journey.
yes, and if you don't, the more of a journey that you take to get to that final destination, and in this case there's no real final destination. It's like as
Yeah.
soon as you think
Yeah.
you're there, then there's a little bit more to do. And like
Yep.
you said, like more now than you did before, and you will know more a year from now than you do now, and
Yep.
that's fine. That's the way
Yep.
that's what the way you should want things to work. But if you were to
Yeah.
just wake up tomorrow and be like, I know exactly what songs I need to write, I know exactly who I need to be and how I need to present myself, and like just have this clear cut vision of like all the answers,
Yeah.
what's the fun in that?
Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
growth and the being able to look back at, things a year ago or even 5 years ago and be like, wow, like look at how much has changed. Like it's
Yeah.
that part that's like, okay, this is rewarding, this is worth it. Let's keep
Yeah.
moving forward and see how much farther we can get. Because if you
Yeah,
just
for sure.
if you wake up on third base, home plate's right there,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
So
Yeah, I mean,
it's the right
it's
perspective to have.
always my dad always says you gotta, I know the journey's tough, but you gotta enjoy it, because once you get, to wherever your finish line is, whatever that looks like, success in whatever form, you'll look back and go, oh, I should have appreciated that more. If you just kind of, you know, it's good to be focused on the future, but it's always good to be present as well, because this is kind of, the fun part of getting to where you want to be. And yeah, I think it's always hard to, to stay present as because you're always looking for better things. But yeah, um,
Yeah.
learning yourself is, well, I mean, you're never going to fully know yourself anyway. I don't think it's always going to be changing anyway. So it's always a fun thing in music, I guess, that you get to keep getting asked who you are, and you keep not knowing, and you have a different answer every time, and that's the fun of it.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're so focused on the destination that you don't enjoy the journey, then I feel like the destination doesn't end up being as rewarding. Because
For sure.
like it's the destination is a series of events that got you there. And so if you're not taking the time to take in those journey of events, then the destination's not going to have that much value. It's like the obstacles that you overcame and the time that you
Yeah.
put in and the
Yeah.
sacrifices that you made along the way that are like, oh, like I'm really like when you get to that end, it's like I really put the right like I put the effort in and I
Yeah.
got what I
For
wanted out
sure.
of it.
Yeah. I mean, we as humans always want more. So,
Yeah,
once you get to where you are, you're not going to be satisfied if you
true.
kind of you'll miss actually grinding to where you get to. So it's always worth, just reminding yourself to enjoy the journey, I guess.
What impact do you want to have with your music and with your artistry?
I guess, I mean, yeah, it's always a hard thing. I write, I don't really want to write for other people, necessarily. I like, it's always easy to overthink songwriting and try and write things that you think other people are going to like. And, you know, if I write this, it's not going to do as well, or that kind of argument, But I always like to try and stick to writing for myself and not overthinking it. Doing what I enjoy is more important than kind of writing for success. So, the impact isn't necessarily something I like to focus on, but I guess my songs will have an impact just because of the topics I'm writing about. Because I write about my experience is going to be very similar to people my age and younger and slightly older and all that kind of thing. I mean, everyone will have experienced it in their lives, hopefully. So I guess it's kind of more of a um, emotional connection to my songs, I guess. In that, I use songwriting as therapy for myself. So I kind of hope that it is the same for other people, that are going through similar things. Because yeah, I mean, I write songs about social media and stuff, but you wouldn't be able to tell it exactly what it's about. So it's kind of it'll sound more general and it'll relate to probably most people's lives. So I kind of just hope that it you know um people feel like they're not alone, and that it kind of helps them through tough times, and they can realize that there's people out there feeling the same way and that they don't need to feel so down about things, and hopefully, yeah, get them through it, or just something, at the very least, something for them to relate to, I guess. Yeah.
I think and I think that this is also like if you expand it out is very just it's an overarching thing that just layers and layers of let me say what I'm going to say before I try to explain that it is like so
Yeah.
multidimensional. Um every time I ask that question, I get a lot of similar answers in the way of like I want my music to impact other people, to make them feel heard, to make them feel understood, to essentially be like, "Hey, you're not the only person that's experiencing this thing. This
Yeah.
song is proof that this is not a solo experience."
Yeah.
Um and it's always interesting because I've been doing this for over 2 years and I get a lot of the same sort of narrative of like, I want my music to impact the people. And while, you could chalk that up to being this cheesy cliche answer, it's always it always comes out in a different way and is articulated in a different way. Cause like the way you said it with, wanting people to understand that they're not the only person going through whatever it is that they're going through is a different way than it's been said the last however many times it's been said. And it's also
Yeah.
just kind of in a bigger sense, like that's how we write music. Like there's millions of breakup songs out there, but no
Yep.
two are written in the same way and no two are
Yeah.
telling the exact same story. And so it's like, it goes back to this whole like universal experience thing. Like what
Yeah.
you're going through, it might not be verbatim the same thing that I'm experiencing right now,
Yeah.
but there's a
Yeah.
lot of shared similarities here. And, it's not to make it sound depressing, but misery loves company. And so it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If somebody else is going through the same thing that you're going through, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it sucks for you just as much as it sucks for me,
Yeah.
but it sucks a little bit less for us both because we're
Yeah.
both dealing with it. It's like it's nice to know
Yeah.
that somebody
Yeah.
else is suffering too.
Yeah.
Which is a dark way to say it, but it's
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? It's like
It's
everybody just
true.
wants
It's
to
true.
feel like a sense of community and
Yeah.
connection. And so when you go out music with this, like, I want my songs to tell people like, hey, not even just in the verbatim, you're not alone sense, but in the, hey, like, I've felt this way too. Like,
Yeah.
what else can you ask for from a song,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised it's a common answer to be honest, because I think that's what everyone wants in a song, I guess, especially sad songs. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone listens to a sad song so that well, I guess so they can get their feelings out as well, but they're always listening for how other people are feeling and, if they're dealing with it different, like everyone deals with things differently, but how they're dealing with it differently, or if they're dealing with it in a similar way, it's kind of just like a natural human instinct, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, yeah, I hope it helps people. I guess that's kind of why we all do it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and in a similar way, it's like, you know, as universal as the experiences are, the music that speaks to you is packaging that idea and that story and that emotion in a way that communicates with you. Just as
yeah,
like the answer that you just gave me like sparked something in my brain and made me like understand that concept as an idea more so
yeah,
than maybe some other answers have, because the way that you packaged it made more sense to
yeah,
me. Same thing with
yeah,
music. Music
yeah,
really is just like
sure,
this universal like thing. And it's just,
yeah,
you can compare everything to music and it's all right there.
yeah, 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 yeah.
uh that brings us to the final question, which is why music?
Uh, oh God, jeez, these have not been easy questions,
Well, this
and
is the last one. You just have to finish this one and then we're done. And then you can get rid of
that's
me and
like
never speak to me again and then
that's like the
that's it.
hardest question of them all. Why
You kind of are
music?
already getting there. You kind of you
I
kind of
guess,
wrapped
but
that last answer up like that, but
yeah, okay, okay.
there's
Um, why music?
no
Oh,
such thing as a wrong answer.
I know I'm not sure. You haven't heard mine yet. Uh, why music? Well, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I didn't have anything else at the start. That's genuinely my answer. I think literally going through school, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life, and I left school, and I still didn't have a clue what I wanted to do with my life. And there's all this pressure from people to go to uni or college or whatever you call it, or to get a job or do something after school. And I was there like, a lot of people, would go into uni, whether it was just pressure from their parents and they were just doing something because, they had to do it or not. I was kind of in a position where my parents are very supportive and I've been very lucky with that. So I haven't really had pressure from them to do anything specific. And my dad's already always said to me that he would prefer me to do something that I love rather than just go for something just because it's there, that kind of thing. So I was kind of in a position of like, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Um, I have to find something eventually, I guess. But, um, I was just in like no man's land and I, I guess I started writing songs then. And there's only ever been two things that I've really been good at, and that was, m music and sport. That was pretty like I mean, I was decently good at school, but like it wasn't anything special that I was kind of like, oh, other than music. So it was kind of like, you know, honestly deciding to go to uni was just like, well, I was good at music at school. That's that's it. There's nothing else. And that's probably not like the answer that is the most inspirational thing ever in the world, I guess. Um, it sounds kind of lame, I won't lie. But that's how it happened. Yeah, I mean, I've always just been good at music. I wouldn't say it was necessarily a passion at that point. I'd written a couple of songs by that point, but I wasn't like there was just kind of something I was doing, as a hobby. Like I'd written a couple of songs, I'd recorded them myself. Like I wasn't really doing it professionally or anything like that. So it wasn't something I kind of saw as a career path at that point. Um, but then I literally saw an advert for a music college on my phone, and I was like, okay, well, I'll apply. The guy literally called me on the day and he's like, do you want to come see the uni tomorrow? And I'm like, I may as well go see it. Why not? And I went there and everyone was really nice. And I was just like, well, okay, I guess I'm doing this then. Like it was literally that. And it's nothing super inspirational. And already obviously was loving music and I've obviously done music for a really long time. And it's not like I just went, oh, I'll just do this like out of nothing. But it was kind of, I had almost unlimited options and, um, it kind of just fell into my lap almost. I still didn't know, we had like performance or songwriting streams, kind of you like your major, I guess. So I still didn't know what I did wanted to do. Most people have to pick, so I just did both. So I kind of ended up doing more than other people because I was so indecisive. Um, but at that point, I still didn't know, and then I kind of just kept writing songs, and I started to love it more and more, and that's kind of how it happened, I guess. And that's why music, super inspirational.
I wouldn't downplay it that much because it goes back to this idea that I like we brought up earlier. It was, it's just like finding your sound and finding your brand. It's just like trying sports as a kid. It's like you have to try all these different things to know more about what you do like and more about what you don't like. Like they say that like in relationships, for every like relationship that doesn't work out or ends or you break up, whatever, there's something that you learn from that and take away from it, and it makes you better
Yep,
for the next one. And so it's just this
yep,
matter of like evolving over time and finding, and I I am the queen of starting a random passion project that is more ambitious beyond my means, and then some. And it lasting me all of 3 weeks. But the only thing that's of any creative endeavor that I've ever tried to do that has lasted me more than those 3 weeks is music. And I've been doing that since I was 16 and I'm 24.
yep,
So,
yep,
sometimes it is just not like, yeah, it seems like a by default or like an I'm only good at this or this is the only
Yeah,
thing that really makes sense. And,
yeah,
it just kind of walked right into it and it happens. But it's like
yeah,
there's a reason that that's what stuck around all this time. It's like that
yeah,
personal connection that you have to it. So let's not
yeah.
just downplay it to, I didn't really have anything else I wanted to do.
What?
There's a reason that you're here doing it. There's a reason that, you
Oh
picked up
dear.
the bass at 7 years old or 6 years old
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever it was. Like,
for sure.
come on, give yourself some credit.
I mean, I'm not good at giving myself credit, I won't lie. But yeah, I mean, I would say, yeah, always put yourself out there. That's one thing I've definitely learned because if you ask me maybe even a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, if you asked me if I thought I would be able to do what I'm doing now, I would say no. Like, I am a super, super, super introverted person. Like, at the start of my degree, I wouldn't have told you that I would be performing on stages in front of people and enjoying it. Like, if you asked me to get up in front of people and do a speech, I would be so nervous and my voice would be shaky and it would be terrible. But like if you asked me just to get up and play a song, I'd be fine. And I don't know how that works psychologically. It doesn't make any sense, but it just everyone says, get out of your comfort zone and it's easy once you've done it to say it to other people, which is why I love saying it now because I've done it. So it's like, yeah. But it definitely is something, don't write yourself off because I could probably quite easily have just been like, no, I mean I'm so introverted, I'd never be able to sing on stage. My voice isn't good enough, that kind of thing. Um, so I'll just write songs for other people or that kind of thing, or do film scores or whatever. So it could have taken me down a different path, which might not necessarily have been worse, but I'm glad I've ended up where I am now, and it is because I just said yes to pretty much everything. Like it was literally just a gig from my first gig was just a gig from like a poster up at uni, and I just like I walked past it, I saw it, and I was like, all right, I'll call the guy. I wouldn't have done that before going to uni, and it's kind of just, you know, put yourself out there. Don't be scared. Um, well, do be scared. It is scary, but you can't help that. But it can um, give you some good rewards in the future. So yeah, there you go. That's more inspirational.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and the scary part, it's like the more you have to experience to get to that end result, the more that you appreciate that end result. Like first open
Yep,
mic I ever did, I
for
was
sure.
like terrified. Did it,
Yep,
felt like I was on top of the world at the end of the night.
yep,
I was
yep.
up there
No, for
for
sure.
15 minutes. Like, come on.
Yeah,
The
no,
best
that's
15
it.
minutes of my
That's it.
life.
That's it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd never sung in front of people before, so I people didn't start booing me, so I was happy,
There you go.
And you never know. You can't know unless you try. Like I didn't know if
Exactly.
my voice was good, if my songwriting was good. I had no idea, but I did it. It was scary for sure, but and then you're less scared for the next time, and you get less and less scared the more you do it. So and it becomes really fun. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. You could check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.